Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Poetry Foundation's virtual event, Crip Ecologies. My name is Alex, and I am the Building and Events Manager at the Poetry Foundation. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a white, cis man with black glasses and blue-black dyed hair. Today I'm wearing a gray shirt with a black sweater over the top, and I'm sitting at my desk with a vase of flowers and a bookshelf behind me. We would like to begin by recognizing that the Poetry Foundation building is situated on the occupied original homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa nations, among other Indigenous nations. Indigenous people continue to live here today, and Chicago is home to one of the largest urban Indigenous communities in the United States. While we are meeting on a virtual platform, it remains crucial that we recognize the stolen resources and land that enable the infrastructures of our connecting tonight. We gather recognizing that some of us are settlers on colonized land, and that this land acknowledgement is one small part of disrupting and dismantling the colonial structures in which we are living. Tonight's event is part of the Poetry Coalition's annual nationwide programming series on environmental justice, spanning 25 independent poetry organizations and 11 cities. In 2021, the Poetry Coalition takes inspiration from these lines from the poem Map by Linda Hogan. It is burning, it is dreaming, it is waking up.
Hi everyone, my name is Noah and I am the events assistant at the Poetry Foundation. I use they, them pronouns. By way of visual description, I am a white trans person with lilac hair, wearing a blue shirt with swirls, a pink and purple choker, and hearing aids. I'm speaking to you from a light flooded room with a green tapestry and a cluttered window ledge full of books. Some technical information before the readers come on. This event is captioned by VITAC. This event features ASL interpretation, which will be spotlighted throughout the event for ease of access. And finally, we want to co-create a relaxed virtual space. That means feel free to do what you need for your body and mind to be more at ease, whether that's eating a snack, hydrating, nursing, lying down, or even stepping out to take a break. That's fine. Take a second now to make yourself 10% more comfortable. Now I'd like to introduce our first reader, Ulanday Barrett. Ulanday Barrett is a poet, performer, and cultural strategist. Barrett's poetry collection, More Than Organs, received a 2021 Stonewall Book Honor by the American Library Association and is a 2021 Lambda Literary Award finalist. Kay has featured at the Lincoln Center, the United Nations, Symphony Space, the Poetry Foundation, Princeton Review, the Dodge Poetry Foundation, the Hemispheric Institute, and the Brooklyn Museum. They've received fellowships from McDowell, Lambda Literary Review, Drunken Boat, Vona, and McCondo. Their contributions are found in the New York Times, Asian American Literary Review, Them, Nylon, Vogue, PBS NewsHour, BuzzFeed, The Huffington Post, The Advocate, The Rumpus, Friction, Race Forward, and more. In their political work, they have served on the boards and committees for the Transgender Law Project, Sylvia Rivera Law Project, the Disability Justice Collective, Reza Ortiz, and recently was on the advisory board for the Crip Camp documentary on Netflix. Currently, they remix their mama's recipes and reside in Jersey City with the Jowly Dog. Please welcome to the virtual stage, Ulanday Barrett.
Hey everybody, how are you? My name is Ulanday Barrett. My pronouns are they, he, and siya. In Tagalog, that means they, them. And just to give you a visual description, I am a short, brown, round boy, B-O-I, with black glasses, short black hair, and a light denim chinois collared shirt. And behind me is cream-colored background and walls. I'm going to be reading some poems for you today, so let me just kick it off. My first poem is titled Sick for Sick. Her body patched, swollen skin, hair flecks, gone rogue, mismatched knees, aches, knit quilts throughout. Curvature is a soft thing. She said, if we hum close, close enough that our chests touch, shared breath comes from belly up. That is not platonic. Now, breathe same air. Nostril kinetic by way of brow cleft, pirouette of migraine, syllables twirl temples. Strain is something to lull here together. When nerves are ablaze, I'm told to be blanket. Lay my torso on theirs, abdomen to abdomen, core to core. Is this what a field does to a hill? Spill it with poppies. I wait on their skill. How she will sigh. The human body is heating pad, limbs bonfire, flip sheets. You can't reverse sick. Today we don't want to. Chests pulse, softest lake. Come spring, we never do this again. There's only the memory of it. How their lungs cathedral, how I prayed there. On the ledge of inhale, sternum sacred, coughed hymn, spasm, luminescence, syllables stretched, muscles, muscled sacrament, more than splay. Us, petals in overlap, us, an ampersand on fire. Thank you so much. And that's for that love for sick people, for sick people. It doesn't have to include romantic, but you know. This next poem is a cento. It's a found poem for you poet heads, and it's entitled, You Are So Brave, which I know so many people are told. So here's this poem. It's for you, content warning for ableism, racism, and transphobia. And it begins with a quote. And those scars I had hidden with smiles and good fucking lay open. And I don't know any more tricks. I'm really colored and I'm really sad sometimes. And you hurt me. Yosake Shambi. What happened? Oh, sweetie, here, let me get that for you. What do you mean? No, thank you. You don't want my help? Some people are just so ungrateful. I was helping you. You are so brave. Please step on the scale. Please step on the scale. Please step off the scale. You are so brave. I've never seen someone on a dance floor or protest move like that. What a pimp. Can I touch a cane? Does it hurt? Quote, people with disabilities are often seen as flawed beings whose hope of normalcy rests in becoming more like non-disabled people or on becoming cured. Sin's invalid. When will you get better? Don't worry, everything will be normal soon. If you just try hard enough, you will heal. If you just pray hard enough, you will heal. Have you tried acupuncture, water therapy, meditation, singing the Star Spangled Banner in all of your languages backwards only during the full moon? If you take these herbs enough, you can be like you were, better, normal. Ugh, why are you walking so slow? This is the city of hustle, son. Buck up. If you can't speed up, leave. Dear blank, I understand that you have accessibility needs, and we as a queer or progressive organization love your work. But unfortunately, we find your requests to be unrealistic. We understand that you are queer and transgender and a person of color with limited income, but we cannot fund you at this time. Oh, but please do send us samples of your work so that we may distribute them to our participants for free. Dear insert assigned at birth name you no longer identify with, that makes you want to cut yourself every syllable. It has come to our attention that you are 100% disabled. You cannot work at all. Disabled people do not work at all. They should never work. Don't even consider working. Does it hurt still? Classification: no prolonged standing, walking, steel pin impacted, osteonectomy, Aiken, McBride, constant deviance, cane usage to support impediment and prolonged limp. Oh my, look at that hair. Don't you have a boyfriend to come to physical therapy with you? Quote, seen as flawed beings whose hope of normalcy rests in becoming more like non-disabled people or by becoming cured. All right, for the report, we're going to need to see some ID. That can't possibly be you. You were attractive once. What happened? Please step on the scale. So, you were attacked. What did you do to motivate the attack? Okay, on this paperwork, I don't understand. There's this word. Could you tell me what exactly does LGBTQ mean? Well, ma'am, we have to use the biological sex it says on the paperwork. It'd be nice if you wore some lipstick, maybe some makeup. It might make this whole process easier for you. Does it hurt still? Hasn't it been years now? Why aren't you better? Based on your old life, don't you want to be more like me? Hey, do you have a fundraiser? Okay, I don't know any disabled people personally, but we can fundraise funds to help you because we think you deserve it. This is the city of hustle, son. Buck up. You don't know what you are doing. Give me that. You don't know how to take care of yourself. You are so slow. It's hard to imagine how you could do anything for yourself at all. Oh, you're so pathetic. Does it hurt still? Yo, homie. Yeah, we're all gonna go to the club. There should be some cuties there. Oh yeah. Yeah, there are stairs, dude. I'm so sorry, dude. I forgot. Click. The march is 2.5 miles long. Maybe you could just meet us at the rally. Oh, look at that little boy with the cane. Why do I have to get up, chink? You want my seat, faggot? So you were attacked. Why do I have to get up, chink? Hey, I'm talking to you. Do you even speak other English? He doesn't even look disabled. If you have any concerns around safety at this event, conference, or protest, you should really bring up these concerns with the cisgender and rad, skinny, able-bodied person who confuses wellness work for everybody gets better work. Wait, that's supposed to be a girl? Oh, you look so cute when you dance. Okay. Let me take a picture of you holding your cane. Hold your back, show the cane, show the cane. What did you do for someone to attack you? You must have done something to provoke it. Please step off the scale. You know, if you just lose weight, you'd be healed, right? We'll help you because we think you deserve it, not like some people with disabilities, you know, the ones that drool and make a fuss. Constant deviance. You'll be normal soon, won't you? Oh, It's not far, it's just a few blocks. Oh, I know you're in pain, but you can make it, dude. I believe in you. What do you mean, no thank you? You don't want my help? Please step off the scale. Please step on the scale. Please step off the scale. Thank you. Ooh, that poem. Oh, gets me every time. It's a found poem. So those are quotes just from sick and disabled people, mostly Black, Indigenous people of color. This next poem, it's a buoy us. This is for spoonies everywhere, those people who know that language. To be underwater and holy. Every survivor is splendor. Every spoon is sacred. Every cough is an altar on the bend of a rib cage. Every cane is a drum calling into the earth. You're going to be told that you are not worthy of a party. You'll be told that you are not a celebration. So why exist at all? Because breath is an exhausted ship lapping the wind, because your muscles are the fatigue of a sunset. And when our bodies are carnal waves collapsing, remember, together we can find the shore. Together we can rock and wave and rest and float together. We need to move together. Together we can rupture veins into storms, and together we can be the grit as promising as the sound of shells. Our lineage tells us there will always be land and ocean in our bones. So after every shift of tide, no matter the catastrophe, please hold on if you can. Here's a promise. Dare to press an ear against my chest. And on this love, we'll grow scales for every current. We'll part every sea like scripture. I'm Filipinx, so the ocean is such a home language for me. So there's that poem. All right, I believe I have 2 more to go. This next poem was written pre-COVID, fancy that, frightening. It's called Love Artifact. The air is thicket or jar of jam. We're breathing in bulbous catastrophe, but with layers of plexiglass over our faces. Breathing is a loose word. Shit. Wearing masks used to be fashion statement, not need. When they kiss you for the first time, masks are off. There's only 3 hours of free air space a day for us. And this is what you choose to do with it. Get wet like the ancestors before us. Fumble hair strands and eager crooks of palms. Make garden of the minute. Bury your head and your heart in the mud. Make pulse bigger. It wasn't always this way. Lovers could sufficiently waste one another's time on this planet. That is what old newspaper headlines state. Bumbling lungs that didn't have to beg for air. Plants used to be our source. Corals made way for more minutes. Oxygen of earth, from earth. That was then. On this dome, we sneak glances over love interests in aluminum. Save up our devotion in moments. We can't be remarkable in our eruptions like our grandparents. Spontaneity is fossil. Fingertips have long forgotten the concept of kinetic. Why did we let it get to this point? God, what would you do if they just touched your cheek without planning to? A new life, they promised us. One better after the climate stopped grappling with our mistakes. We made far too many. And now to kiss is daydream thing. Love, artifact. Please, take off your helmet. Welcome the storm. We can learn to breathe again, or let us just cherish this air. Let us inhale, even if it breaks us for trying. Thank you so much. I was a mask user before COVID with chemical sensitivity and chemical pollution. I use all scent-free products, so this poem was coming from that place. This last poem is a kind of hymn that I would like to close with, and it's entitled, Tell a Child About Something That Causes You Fear or Dread, with gratitude to Samia Bashir. It's okay to be just wounds sometimes. Be gape, be cry, be rock, be shiver, be rumble, be ramshackle, be shiver, to shake ancestors in your sleep, to be part dead. Be razor, to lash, be hammer, be hang, be the thing that flails, be cathedral, be gravestone, to speak cobweb. Let me tell you, to die every day is the kind of pulse that makes music. To be the kid who leans against books more than people, to be the book. As it opens and closes, folds in on itself, on the same paragraph, to be that underlined stanza whose body bursts, syntax scars naked. Love body, when it emblazons family curse, when you are bad joke at the table, when you are shuffled scrapes of forks that weirdo told to shut up. Forsaken. Let lonely make a lens so clear, you become intergalactic. Let residue be blanket you shed every season. Let gaze be salve and sign of the cross. Let you be blessing no one understands. Let you be words a stranger waits for. Let love be bunker you crawl into. Let you guffaw. Let you cackle. Let you be last one left. Let you be last one. Let you be last. Let you be. Let you. Let. Thank you so much, Poetry Foundation, for all your time and energy, and thank you everyone for listening. My name is Ulanday Barrett. You can find me at Brown Round Boy on social media, and please sending you love and kindness. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kay. And a reminder that you can submit any questions you have for tonight's readers via the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. And now I'd like to introduce our next reader, Petra Kuppers. Petra Kuppers is a disability culture activist, a community performance artist, and a poet and writer. She creates participatory community performance environments that think/feel into public space, tenderness, site-specific art, access, and experimentation. Petra grounds herself in disability culture methods and uses ecosomatics, performance, and speculative writing to engage audiences toward more socially just and enjoyable futures. Petra's third poetry collection, Gut Botany, was named one of the top 10 U.S. poetry books of 2020 by the New York Public Library. She is the artistic director of the Olympias, an international disability culture collective, teaches at the University of Michigan and at Goddard College, and co-creates Turtle Disco, a somatic writing studio, with her wife, poet and dancer Stephanie Height, from their home in Ypsilanti, Michigan. She is a current Black Earth Institute Fellow, a think tank that addresses connections between ecology, spirituality, and writing. And now let's welcome to the virtual stage Petra Kuppers.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be here with you. I'm Petra Kuppers. My pronouns are she, her. I come to you from Anishinaabe territory in Michigan, Ypsilanti, Michigan, and I am a white cis queer woman. I'm a disabled woman. I have a nearly shaven head, and I have a very textured and very nice to touch velvet top on that is sort of dark pink, and I'm against a pink background and on a red sofa. And the most important thing is that I wear bright yellow glasses, so they hopefully pop at you appropriately. So I will read to you today from my new collection, Gut Botany. And as part of my image description, I'll also offer you a description of this cover. So I'm holding up the cover of the book, and on it you see a sturgeon. And I think of these sturgeons that are both in Germany, where I come from, the perpetrator nation that I am part of. And they live there, and they live all the way through the St. Lawrence rivers, all the way here into the Great Lakes, which is the area I live now. I think of them as survivors, dinosaurs, they're dinosaur fish. And so much of the book is about healing after sexual assault. And I also think of them as having these really interesting sensory organs. And you will hear that sensory embedment in our world is very much a theme of the book. And so here you see beneath the fish, you see these barbels that run down. They're like tentacles below the jaw, a little bit like Cthulhu-like tentacles. And I'm always fascinated by creatures that have other kinds of senses, different ways of sensing the world than humans do. So that's my intro. And now comes my first poem. I'm going to share with you Gut Body. This is the first poem in the collection. And as part of sharing this with you, I'm offering you an invitation to engage with me. These are interactive poems. They are often collaborative. They are in response to other performers and poets whose worlds I'm part of. And so here I extend this invitation to you. I'd like you to hold at various points in the poem, you hear it, your heart and your gut and your sexual organs, however you identify your sexual organs. Okay, so I just like you to hold them, pour yourself into them, and think about what it feels like to hold them. Every culture has a different set of associations with these areas, and that's what I'm trying to activate with this. So here goes. Sucker punch. The knife in the street, fear of being sheared out of the stream into the backwater. Dead fish belly up by the side of the pond. Pills and poisons and endings. Let go and sever the ties and ignore the party is always elsewhere. A shadow in a canoe in a photo, likely put on Facebook tomorrow. Fake of having fun behind the grass, tree, a Stephen King book where I know the next sentence already. Primacy of white masculine fear. Close the leaky gut, body drained of tears. Just speak, walk with me, close the loop. Bow forward, pour yourself into your capable hands and hold your heart. Release. Bow forward, pour your stomach into your feeble hands. Release the binds that bind so tightly to your spinal column. Release. Bow again. Drop your sexual organs into waiting hands. Wait. Breathe in, out, in, soothe. release. Fish slip into the labyrinth of intestines, cruise past the atlas, feed on the carpet fibers of worry. Agile between the lung pearls, hollow behind the liver, green wall, delicate black veins spider along for companionship, dark purple, maroon. Fins soothe the red spots of tension, white bands where muscles have leached nourishment out of tight bands. Between kidney and uterus, raspy tongue licks soggy dahlias on their stalks, ovaries bloom. Glide, mucus oils the way. Swim among the velvet, you and me, into plump cushions, sturgeon tumbling ground. Thank you. Thanks for your attention. And listen into yourself. What did you feel? What did you sense? I'm next sharing with you a few poems from Moon Botany. And moon botany is armchair botany. I was in an artist residency, and my collaborator, who's a visual artist, went on wheelchair inaccessible nature hikes, around this little hut that I was living in, and then brought back found materials that I would then respond to. So that was our creative exchange. And what you hear in these little vignettes, they're kind of like persona poems. They speak about some of the sensations that come up when you're in this lovely cabin, beautiful wood cabin, but you can't access some of these nature walks. So there's this sense of sarcasm. There is a sense of feelings that come up. And I was really intrigued in seeing how I can play with that, with these materials that have been picked from the land and dropped on this little wooden table outside the cabin. The first one is called Found on an Oregonian Playa. Barbed wire. Do not walk here. If you are a cow, your hooves will puncture and swell, gush bloody pus on the desiccated land, boils explode on the gray cacti, clings onto life, roots deep in the pores of pumice, treacherous hold. One gust of the night wind and plants pummel across the basin, their heads dipped into one shallow bowl of salty, sour water, a mirage, drift past already, gone. The storm gusts you till you are spiked on farm machinery and the lever of the long, dry pump of the old corral. Do not walk here in the land of light stones and ancient wire. There is no hold fit for the hitching. Thanks. That was the first one. And I'll share with you another one. And this is about a small little dragonfly exoskeleton that we found on a deck that ran into a pond. I was on this deck with my wife, poet and dancer Stephanie Haidt, and we were engaging in our small dances. We have these 5-minute dance activities that we engage in together. It's an art practice. After the dances, we sit and we free write. And they are these little free writes are the origins of much of this writing. So here we have another one of these little poems that emerge from tiny objects found in the world, found on the pond deck. The husk of a tiny dragonfly, translucent, clings upside down on a yellow spear of grass. Its roots clasp the dry wood of the deck. Tiny white fibers everywhere. The planks, breathing, expectorate their innards. Wood weeps and uncoils what it knew when it stood, tall in a wet redwood forest, before the chains of a truck bed, dark and long, bite here, where all trees are twisted into themselves against the prevailing winds. On that white spun deck, I remember my watery nature, pour my liquid body to wash away the pain of the shorter years, to wash away the pain of a hollow embrace, the feeling that we all will slide, not into the clear pool, but into the murk of a place that should not be settled. All right. And next comes, ta-da, so very different. Let's shift up our energy. And I'm moving to Contours, which is a love poem. Because really, every reading is a love poem. This is mine. Contours. And it's again a dance and language poem. This is the inside, this outside. That is your skin against mine. Your palm runs down my front, breasts retreat, forward arch. I urge you on in my back. My toes loop your hair, twist. You lie across my liver, soften into the heave. Pressed juices flow finer, your foot across, thin skin on the inside, my underarm, my blue vein open into the green grass, pulse. Your heel colors drags t-shirt up, trails bright bouquet where soft white belly blinks. Small beetle finds space behind your vertebrae. Breeze through her old nest. We play splayed amid shoots. Water deep below. My shirt is damp afterward. My face, you still look poised. We bear on the grass carpet. The beetle wonders about her short histories. Birds witness when I burrow my foot into your armpit. I kneel here, lower my face into hollows, feed the pond at our feet, bathe me dark in meadow. Give way, wind, beetle, bird core, circle overhead on your round, snail-like trace. Thank you. And now I'm going to a poem sequence. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to Bug Junction. So I'm going to show you something really interesting, I think. What I love so much about this book from Wayne State University Press is the amazing way that they've worked with this initial image that I have shown you. I've shown you the sturgeon on the cover. And here you see the sturgeon again. So I'm now holding up the book on one of the interleaves, and the color is a dark burgundy, nearly purple color. And you see the same sturgeon drawing that was on the cover, but this time it is horizontal, this time it's vertical rather than horizontal. And the effect is like the proportions of a human body. So something really interesting happens to the fish as it transforms into something else just by changing orientation. And you've already got a sense from my readings that changing orientation is very much part of Crip Ecologies for me. You also see the different colors. The book has many of these interleaves with a sturgeon on it. And the only instruction I had given the press and that the designers worked so beautifully with is that I wanted to see the colors of the inside of the human body. So they gave me all these wonderful reds and oranges and purples. So here's this poem, Bug Junction, and it has two structures on the page. It has an ongoing structure, and then it has the names of months in the English translation of Anishinaabe words for months, so Ojibwa words for specific months. And I'm tracking in these months my own healing journey. It breaks the poem up. It offers time for us, a form of Crip time. Red dragonfly segmented, shelves of torso, pelvis fly, phyli structures, a discursive regime I name ancestral knowledge. Wild rice moon. I cannot look you in the eye. Segmented multitudes reflect no ego spreads through antennae, sensitive bristle, foot, pat, hair. Leaves changing color, moon. Skin eye, hair eye, plates turn against one another, white glutinous pivot. Where do you touch me? Leaves falling, moon. We meet Moments, hairs out, a line along my pelt. Then we part. Velcro hairs tug, hooks under my skin, raise a bruise. Freezing over, moon. We lift off from one another, molecules twinned, a touch archaeology decoded by pathologists. Were we to die here, splayed yards from one another by the lake? Little spirit moon. I am not spared precarity in my occupation of indigenous lands. I cannot see the lake the way you root, drum, burn the chitin, an alarm. Big spirit moon. We live, you and I, hooks and all, our touch plates out, hum, armor invitation, a heartbeat, lean in tonight, the sturgeon satellite. Sucker fish moon. Sleep weaves melatonin waves, red blood, white blood, pulse, pulse, all the insects hum 1,000 dark eyes in our dream, crust on the snow moon. Thank you. Okay. I'm now going to go to I want a short poem, and then I end on a performance poem. I'm reading you Hot Springs. Go. So different leafing through an online PDF than a book. Hot Springs, here we go. So I live with pain. I'm using usually a wheelchair or a scooter, which is not something you can see in these little Zoom squares, but that is part of my story and my journey. And so here is another poem that's about a different kind of healing. Hot springs. Crystals invade my bones, my joints, calm heat pressures raw nerves, red wounded sites, air chemicals repair tissue right now. Feet dangle in the waters, sip thick green. The lining of my mouth slurps from deep beneath the lake, salt-filtered excretion of a bony land, a homeopathy for my chasmed joints, rocky cliffs no purchase for soil, accumulate the blow, the wind, trees bend. Do not try to stand up straight. Indigenous zones, rock trail after the erratic journey, silica water rushes pearl kernels onto the land, onto my skin, slips through a hair follicle, bonds with tired calcium, frangible and dry, nestles in the splintery embrace. Make yourself this place, bones open into embrace, my face outward into the wind's curvature. Thank you. And now my last poem. All right, I'm going to read you Wind Tongue. Wind Tongue is a poem of going out into the forest, which I love doing. And for me, that often just means a few steps in because I can't walk very far. And there's an area in one of our local parks where they're very young trees. So I can move myself from tree to tree by holding on to the stems as I go. So I'm trying to get a sense of that in this poem. And if you were to see it on the page, you also see it has lots of eyes. And the eyes are like trees. You know, there's like a little forest on the page that I move along. Wind tongue. I go blue, I drop out, I go, and I skirt school and work, and I run away, and I go. Forest, I won't, I shall not, and I leave now, and here I am. Red cardinal pecks in the dirt far behind. Water rushes past sleeping snakes, babe dragons with rattles that shake in the wind when they dry. Summer dreams deep beneath ice-cold water. Vernal peepers, North Face hikers, Canadian geese step into sweetly mown grass path, verging along the river. The river drops into black mud. Stiff on my cowboy boots, I tumble. Tree. Wind. Shake. elasticity of the young snakeskin bark, tissue high and erect as I stroke into a fit between softness of my palm and crocodile that rears along the way, bits branch out and skewer, eye poke, earpiece, stumble and relax, when I give my weight, when I give in, when I bow into you and pass spears, you echo, sway, far off cars meander through net, muscle flexed, cambium shaken, windstorm memory, a scream near the nature center, kids spurt, tremble earth and bridge and mud on the path, where I try again, to reach to my childhood, play, to lean, to be all natural, open, to be, to live, to breathe, and to be, and to cycle through land and forest is open, is alive, is try, is bridge, is memory spur, is a spear in an eye and a socket, and a yell and a muscle and a bow, away, a tremble, a sleep, and a dark, dark wind and a bridge and a dark, and now it's too much and it hurts, and I feel all the pinch, all pressure, all, the leave it and let it and drop this and why. So I sit down and write, palm tingling with a bark's rough tongue. Thank you.
Woo, that was so amazing. If you want to come out now, actually, and turn on your cameras, we'd love to have a live discussion about Crip Ecologies, which will be moderated by the fabulous Naomi Ortiz. And I promise it will be worth your while to stick around for this conversation. It is my immense privilege to introduce our thoughtful, caring, fabulous moderator. Naomi Ortiz is a poet, a writer, facilitator, and visual artist whose intersectional work focuses on self-care for activists, disability justice, eco-justice, and relationship with place. Ortiz is the author of the book Sustaining Spirit, Self-Care for Social Justice, which is for diverse communities dealing with the risks of burnout. Her leadership style emphasizes facilitation, inclusion, and spiritual growth. She is a 2019 Zoglasia Poetry Fellow whose contributions can be found in We Are Not Your Metaphor, which is a disability poetry anthology, Split This Rock, Vita, Poems and Numbers, and she has also performed at events such as the Disability Pride Parade in Chicago. Ortiz is a disabled mestiza living in the Arizona-US-Mexico borderlands. And now I welcome Naomi to take it away.
Well, thank you, Noah. And let me just echo, yay, for the poems. They were so lovely, so thoughtful. If you have a question for the poets, please, there is the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can throw them in there and we'll see what we can get to tonight. So I just want to welcome everybody. We're going to have a discussion and thinking through some of the themes and the ideas that both Kay and Petra shared in their work. Petra, I want to start with you. You said during your reading that changing orientations is very much a part of Crip Ecologies for me. Can you explain this in more detail?
Yes, thank you. I'm delighted. And I'm just so glad to be on here with you, Naomi. So thank you so much for the question. And Kay, that was amazing. And thank you also for both of the amazing interpreters that we have here. It's just such a delight. And hi, everybody. Changing orientations. As part of my answer, I'm going to talk a little bit about the assault that I mentioned in one of the poems or in one of the introductions. So when I talk about that, I will raise my hand, okay, which I'm doing right now. So I'm not talking about it yet, but I just want to make sure that everybody has a chance to take off the sound at that point if they don't want to listen to that, which I thoroughly encourage you to practice self-care that way. So thank you. So changing orientation, there's so many different ways that I could answer that particular question, but I think I'm going to go with a sense of changing orientation that has to do with unsettling. So I did mention that I am German. I come from a perpetrator nation. And when I grew up, I was very aware of what it meant to be a German after the Nazi past. And I also was very aware of a German connection to, like a cultural connection to the world that we lived in. I grew up in every brook, every river had was alive, had a living creature in it. Everything was alive around me, and there was a great sense of spirits around me. At the same time, I knew as soon as I was growing up a bit that same sense was also one that fueled National Socialism. The connection between environmental love and white supremacies. Those connections run deep, much deeper than we can really unwrap here right now. But it's always become something that unsettles me. That means that I change orientation. I could never walk very far into any forest. I've been a chair user. I've been in pain for most of my life, and I've always been drawn to nature. So I always had to shift what it might look like to go out there. So the changing orientation was also changing how far I might go, how long I might stay. I might just literally be on the edge of the car park. I'm a rural girl, so I am out on there very, very easily, and just touch. You got a sense of how touch is so important to me. And now the other part of changing orientation, and now I'm raising my hand for those who can't see that, so that you have a chance to take your mic off. Then the other part of changing orientation is that at the heart of my book is the healing from sexual assault. I was assaulted a few years ago, and it changed my body completely. It changed my body, mind, and spirit completely. It really shifted who I was. I became aware of the incredible privilege with which I had moved through the world before. I'd experienced assaults before, but for some reason, this one was just, it just kind of changed everything. And since then, I understand what trauma does to us. And so I've tried to become much more aware of what a trauma-informed performance might be. So the changing orientation has to do with this. The other part of changing orientation is to move away from a single voiced poetry into something that's much more about community, right? So in the core poem of the collection, I'm sharing my experience of going to court and facing both the prosecutor and the perpetrator. And as part of my support structure, I call other poets into the room with me, and I'm sharing. I'm calling Petra, who's a disabled performance artist. I call on Banu Kapil's amazing poetry to help me. So I set up the changing orientation is here also about unsettling, but it's unsettling the sense of a solo artist, and that's been really important to me. So I'm now taking my hand down again. So these different kinds of healing journals and healing journeys and unsettling journeys are core of what my sense of orientation and Crip Ecologies is about.
So healing journeys and unsettling journeys. It's a very rich answer. Thank you. Kay, I'm going to turn to you and ask how you think about Crip Ecologies.
Yeah, I think, so much of the way, as somebody who was born physically able-bodied and transitioned as a young adult as somebody physically disabled, I really learned about Cripness and Crip ecology and disability justice from like its original founders to me, which would be essentially Sins and Ballads. So Patty Byrne, Leroy Moore, Eli Clare, Brilliant Imperfections was something that was really important to me. And I think that it's not just about connecting to my own body and my own self, but how, one of the first principles of disability justice, as Patty suggests, is intersectionality. And I think intersectionality and interdependence is that fusion with where you are with Earth, with climate, with your community. And for me, as a person of color, as a Filipinx person whose families was forced here, like forced migrated to, the US empire, for me, it's about ancestral navigations. Crip Ecologies for me is the way in which I try to find liberation in all parts of my whole self. And how I try to pivot my privilege in other avenues. It's the way I breathe and have connections with my friends, whether that's like showing up for folks when we're sharing food stamps, whether it's creating deeper access, intimacy when we want to access nature and forests and woods when others can't. It's, you know, realizing my artist privilege and being engaged in a moving nature landscape and describing that to my peers. So I think it's this constant struggle of breathing in colonization and anti-Blackness and white supremacy and pivoting and constantly holding that onslaught and going back to my roots, which do not belong in that place. The earth does not belong in that place. Those are very new constructs, right? So trying to reroute and re-engage in what is being forced and imposed on me and my communities, have that be anti-Blackness, have that be, you know, US state carceral pain in prison, right? How do I undo those things as my body mind, as Eli Claire suggests, my mind, body, and spirit connect? How am I constantly rerouting itself back to what home feels like, what safety feels like, and how does that elaborate in a collective cultural poetry, right? Like, because I'm not going to say that everybody can just publish a book, because we know literary and poetry is so hierarchical, but I want to breathe more than the book. I wasn't the first transgender person of color, disabled person to write poetry. There were probably hundreds and hundreds of ancestors and people before me. And I realized that there was privilege leading to that. So Crip Ecologies is trying for me to constantly scrape into that network and fuel that network and to nourish ourselves where we have been deemed invisible.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Also very rich and deep answer. And I really appreciate the perspective of building on what came before us, right? Like the ancestral legacies that we have, but also, you know, the folks who showed up and did it, whether or not they were seen. So we have a lot that we're building on in this community, definitely. Kay, in your poem, "You Are So Brave," there's this line, "If you can't speed up, leave." You share a few different ways that this pressure to speed up and go faster is communicated to disabled folks. How do you think urgency and the desire for speed contributes to ableism?
I think there's this, I grew up essentially as an organizer, working with like women of color essentially. And there's this thing from me that white supremacy does that demands labor from Black, Indigenous, and people of color specifically. And like, I learned that the more you produce, the faster you are, the more urgent you are, that equals this kind of moral high ground, right? Like that you're a better artist, a better worker, and that is your worth. So you work hard enough, you pull yourself up by the bootstraps, and then you can become this falsity of what a real citizen is or a real American. And, you know, my ancestors, my parents, both poor working class, both disabled, worked to the bone and didn't reap those benefits that capitalism promised, right? And I think that is the pain and the obliteration that happens to all people, not just disabled people, and happens to queer, trans, and non-binary people, and particularly targets Black people, right? Is this forced momentum, this falsity of success, that's what gains notoriety, and larger, that's what's supposed to fulfill your spirit, right? But we know that that's not only insufficient, but that it's a lie. And so for me, I think if you look at some of the media by the NAP ministry, for example, which is like Black Women Run, they discuss the power of NAPs and the idea that Black, Indigenous, and POC people are not allowed rest, right? What does that do when you're multiply marginalized, multiply disabled, and you're not given the frivolity, let's say for me, to be in the nature, right? Because we're trying to get housing, we're trying not to get policed, trying not to get jumped. So my Crip Ecology is directly connected to PACE. Like the idea to have the space, I'm housing precarious right now. The idea to have the privilege to slow down, to excavate, and to be creative. There's a hierarchy on who gets to have those things. And those are usually the most rich, the whitest, the most cis, the skinniest, and the most abled and Christian. And so people telling us to hustle and speed up, that's coming from ableism. That's coming from the belly of the beast, right? Those are exact weapons to demolish us. Versus if we could connect ourselves to our ancestral roots and really listen and really give our care in the ways that we are able, what a beauty and what a bounty that would be.
I really love how you connect pace with this concept of Crip ecologies or Crip community and survival, and that's beautiful. Petra, what are your thoughts? How does this pressure relate to your work?
Thank you. Okay, that was a wonderful answer. I loved how you answered it, and it reminds me of so many of our ancestors and the people that we are honored to call into our lineages, like Gloria Anzaldúa, and the writing of writing horizontally, just like working in that kind of tradition. So, and that is a tradition that is really important to me. It's a tradition that I have, as I've been disabled all my life, so I knew that many places they just weren't accessible to me. So I always had to find art forms that were outside the mainstream. And I've now since, of course, moved into a very different kind of place, a very privileged space. But for a long time, I was working as a community artist with trekking with my wheelchair from one community center to the next, and working with people who were far away from employment, far away from normality, as one might want to call it, and people who were incarcerated people, people who lived in nursing homes, people who were diagnosed with mental health differences. So for many, many, many years, my work consisted of animating ourselves, going into these places and just being with one another, just finding words together, creating performances together. So long before I entered eventually US academia, that was my life, and that is still my core life. So when I think about these concepts of who has time, I think about those really gentle moments when we are, as I mentioned the car park before, right? So when we're going to this car park and together find that step away. So one of my earliest experiences really entering into disability culture land was in Wales, in the UK. I was living near the Brecon Beacons National Park, which is a gorgeous space, and no one ever thinks about how disabled and poor people access the park. You have to have a heck of a lot of capital to get in there. You need to have a car, you need, just all the stuff, you need to have time off. So the activism that I was engaged in at that time was to organize us to just go into the park. We're just like pull together people who had some kind of old banger of a car, get in there, get into the park, and just sit there together, like picnic time, just sit and be seen as poor people, Crip people, people who have tremors from depot medication, people who are not normally seen in these kinds of spaces. And we were just taking up space. We were sharing food together. We were sharing bread and water, and we were writing. We were rethinking the myths of Wales. When many of us were Welsh speaking as well. Wales is a colonized country, and we let the language of Wales flow through us. And that's the kind of moment that I call upon when I think about these moments that are other in time. For me, it actually is very important that we do find a way out. I'm not saying that we can't find them in urban environments, but I find it's very important that we honor rural environments, that we honor that there can be spaces for us to come together across differences and find these bubbles of time together. I love finding those times. They give me great joy, and I think they give all of us great joy for living forward and together.
So beautiful. So I like Kay's talking about pace, and you're talking about, Petra, taking up space, which I think are two things that Crips just have to do in order to exist in the world of different paces and take up space in different ways. I love those answers so much. So we're going to see if we can squeeze in one more question before our time runs out here. So this question, let's start with you, Kay. You both talk about survival in your work. What are tools of survival for you?
I think, for me right now, it's really trying to, my dog, who's been in the view the whole time. I would not be here without my dog, to be quite honest. Yeah, absolutely. Petra, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And that's not even a joke. And I think from my survival, for me, what works for me is like going to therapy. That's really important. I think checking in with my care circle, I have a close knit of 3 or 4 people, as well as a pod, and really trying to connect on, what we're actually tangibly facing, and so that we can problem solve together. What I'm noticing for me, especially during the times of COVID, are mutual aid from disabled folks. Skill sharing, food delivery, for the most part, especially that first, honestly, 8-9 months, I really didn't leave my house, so for me, survival was something going back to my bones and doing ritual with my ancestors and spending time with my partner and just making sure that I can get the privilege to have all my basic needs met. Like for me, that's literally food, sleep, because I get sleep scarcity. It's the very grounding basic human necessities these days that remind me of my humanness and my humanity. And I think lastly, I would have to say, I've been making these really cute mocktails with a really cute like mint basil kefir lime elixir that my friend, another spoonie, Keiko, got me. And yeah, just reading the works of disabled Black, Indigenous, people of color, and queer disabled people. So, for me, I know they were mentioned earlier, but I would recommend watching the play Love Like Barnacles by Sins and Ballad. I'd recommend reading Saray Jarrell Johnson's work, Eli Clare's work for more trans disabled perspectives. I think those perspectives have really buoyed me and helped remind me the interconnectedness of what we're trying to do.
Thank you so much. And I like how you brought up an example of a word you used earlier, interdependence. So you were talking about care circles. And that's an example of interdependence, how we can work together to support each other to live. Petra, how about you? What are some tools for survival for you?
Thank you. Yeah, tools for survival. My question will mirror Kay's totally, because it's so important. The care web, the finding connection, particularly in this past year, but generally finding connection together. We in March last year, we started our Coffee Clutches, Turtle Disco. So as some people know, Turtle Disco is this space. For a long time, I didn't own a home, not because I was not employed. I was, so I do have that privilege. But 3 years ago, we bought this place because I wanted to take serious Donna Haraway's call for a small community of people who come together and find community together. I was moving away from travel, lots of travel, partly because of the shift, the reorientation from the assault that I already talked about, but also because of wider ecological concerns and an understanding that we need to really distribute resources in a different way. So we have now this place that has a living room. The living room is our Turtle Disco, it's our community living room. And many people come who can literally walk to us or bicycle to us, and some drive to us, and we can create work together. And I know that here on the attendance list, I'm so delighted to see so many old people that we've played together. We've been partners, we've been creative partners together, and I'm so delighted that you're all here. And now the Coffee Clutches are, at the beginning of the pandemic, they were once a week. People came, checked in creatively, spoke about how they are surviving, and we were helping each other across the nation and beyond, online, and still many local people, but also this wider circle. So my survival is about community engagement with one another, finding interdependent web, finding these care webs that Leah Lakshmi talks about. So this is how what survival looks like, the beauty of us all, the beauty of creative people, disabled people, and people in all kinds of precarities together.
The beauty of disabled people, on all types of people together. I love that. Thank you so much, Petra, and thank you, Kay. So I'm going to turn this back to Alex and Noah for the final words. And thank you so much for the conversation. Thank you to you all who stayed with us to chat and to hear from these two amazing poets, their wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful conversation following some wonderful readings. I want to thank again, and let's give some virtual claps and snaps to our contributors tonight, Kay Ulanday Barrett, Petra Kuppers, and Naomi Ortiz. I want to thank also our ASL interpreters, Mona Jean Cedar and Moxie Coles Felix, and also our captioner from VITAC. And I want to thank, last but not least, all of you for joining us for tonight's reading. Thank you again, everybody. I'm wishing you many more nights full of poetry. I want you to please take care of yourselves and each other, and have a great night. Good night.